urban style individual.
What's up with y'all? Hopefully this video finds you in good spirits, and if not, thank God you not DSP. And if you an atheist, just play along. You know, we chilling. So what is this? This is me giving you a little bit about my introduction into the snort verse, the DSPCU, whatever you want to call it, right? So this might not be as structured as some of my other content. I might not be as concise, and this may be a little disjointed. So I want to apologize for that up front. Now, I was going to do bullet points and lay everything out and all that, but I said, you know what? I just want to talk to y'all. So many years ago, many moons ago, if you will, I've always been somebody who played games. You know, I played sports, but we was always playing Madden back in the day. We was always playing NBA Live back in the day. Even before that, coming up, I remember playing the Nintendo 64, and I remember how groundbreaking it was, like how big of a deal it was. I remember playing No Mercy and a lot of other wrestling games, obviously the Mario Karts, and the list goes on. So gaming has always been a part of my life in some aspect, regardless of what I was doing, even when I was serving in the military. You know, it was a great pastime, a way to blow off steam, if you will, you know. So I cannot tell you exactly how I came into contact with DSP or how I knew of DSP. He's just always kind of been in the ether. He just always kind of existed, right? So I can't pinpoint an exact time, and I wish I could, but I can't, that I knew of his existence, right? But fast forward, maybe a decade even, to where you get the Scorn situation, right? And I cannot recall what big content creator it was. I don't know if it's the Gundam or if it was Moist Critical, where I seen the Scorn clip. And I just thought to myself, like, damn, how can somebody be this entitled, right? So I let it play. And initially I was thinking to myself, this guy has to be playing a character. He's pulling the wool over everybody's eyes, and none of us really understand what he's doing, because that's the only way that something like this is actually happening. That's what I was thinking. So the Scorn situation goes down, you know, and I'm like, damn. So what that did was made me intrigued. And I'm going to tell you why I was intrigued. I was intrigued because I couldn't understand why somebody like him was still getting money from people. I'm like, wow. Because when you think about it like this, for most people, if somebody talked to you crazy, then the last thing out of their mouth better be them asking you for something, especially if they said something crazy to you, right? So I'm like, as I'm watching DSP Detractor content, and primarily I was watching Atlas at the time, okay? So it might have been some Snort Hogan videos in there too. I was watching maybe a few duty videos here and there, right? But I started to see, okay, this is why people don't like this guy, because he was just so unappreciative. On top of that, super entitled. So he had extremes in all the undesirable traits that you would normally find in people. You're like, wow, you maxed out on all the bad stuff and you don't even register when it comes to the good stuff, which made me more intrigued, because I started thinking, wow, this is something deeper here. Something had to have happened in his childhood for him to develop this framework for his reality. Why else would he think he's so special unless that's something that he's being told since he was a little boy, right? And like I said, this is going to be a little disjointed, but I'm going to try to keep it chronological as much as I can. So over time, you know, I would get off work or whatever I was doing, I would watch some detractor content or whatever, right? And I was having these conversations about Phil, like, cause you know when you're watching something and you're like, yeah, like what's wrong with this dude? You know, you having these conversations either by yourself or if somebody else is watching it with you. And so I was thinking to myself, man, I'm talking about the shit anyway. I might as well record it. Now, I had no idea that I was going to get the type of response that I got. I didn't know if anybody would really care, to be real with you. I thought maybe I'll get a little bit of traction, who knows? But I did feel that the space was kind of oversaturated, but I did feel like it was missing something. And what it was missing was that analytical approach to it, if you will. I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in the room. I don't believe that. All right. But what I'm saying is a deeper look at things, if you will. Right. Which I felt like Atlas was doing, but he left. And when he stopped uploading, I felt it. I'm like, damn, I don't even want to watch nobody else, for real, for real. Now, I continue to watch other people's stuff, but there was a void there. And I felt it. And I'm like, well, if I'm feeling this, chances are other people are feeling this too. Now, I'm not getting on here saying that I'm feeling his shoes. That's not what I'm getting at, because I know people might try to misinterpret what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what he brought to the sphere, he was not bringing any more, or at least not as much. You know, he had kind of transitioned what he was doing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try it, see what happens, you know? And then, you know, things just start kind of clicking for me as far as ideas and channel names and how I was going to do it and what my content framework was actually going to be, you know? And so once I actually got serious about it, you know, because the first month or even the first 2 months really was kind of brutal, if I'm being real about it. I'm like, wow, like this is going nowhere. Even though the channel growth was good, you know, in terms of like how you would view a traditional channel on YouTube, I don't really have a framework for what's good or bad on YouTube in terms of your own channel. Now you see other people's stuff, right? But YouTube is always pushing you the exception. Okay. Most videos on YouTube never even get 1,000 views. So what you're seeing on your recommended pages is all the exceptions to the rule. So you never even know that there's this entire abyss of a bunch of people or creators who tried, and for whatever reason, they are no longer uploading. So I didn't know if I would get lost in a sea or whatever was going to happen, but the feedback has been great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to transition into the actual Scorn clip, the one that went viral and the one that really made me started watching DSP with more of a keen eye, because it started becoming very clear to me early on that this guy was manipulative, you know. And then I really started to understand the power of pignosis, right? Because I'm sure for a lot of y'all, myself included, when I first came across Phil, I was like, wow, they're being kind of mean to him. They're kind of being harsh, like what this guy do, right? I wasn't familiar with the lore and what was going on. It wasn't until I started dipping my toe into things and started watching things on a routine nature that I started to realize, like, God, this guy's a terrible person. And every chance he gets to try to be redeemable or make things right, he doubles down. The second he got anything that he felt was going to puff him up or make him on a higher level than you, he was going to make sure you knew it, even though he was begging every day. And I'm like, what is this? Right? So, you know, with that said, I decided to start the channel. And again, I'm forever grateful, man. Y'all have been crazy in terms of the channel growth, the feedback, and dare I say support. I know Fielden said that shit so much, it's beginning to lose its damn meaning, but I'm serious. It's been crazy and I'm appreciative. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch this Scorn clip. Okay. And I am going to chime in here and there, but for the most part, I do want to allow it to play because I know a lot of y'all seen this already, but let's just go down memory lane a little bit and see how much Phil has not changed, even though he likes to claim he has. So let's see.
All right, guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm frustrated for two reasons. Reason number one, because yeah, the game does suck. I really did not like tonight's stream, and in addition to that, as you guys can see, I stayed extra late for you guys, and basically it amounted to nothing. No one's really supported, which pisses me off. It does. That I'm playing a game. Obviously, it's frustrating. A lot of people showed up to watch it because you saw how frustrating it was, and no one supported. Yeah.
Now you see how he said outright that it pisses him off. Now this is something that we all know because every time Phil doesn't make his money, this is the response that people get. But you can tell he was really incensed here because he actually said it. He usually tries to couch his anger in other things. Oh, the game wasn't good, or, you know, you guys said you wanted this. But here he's saying outright, look, you pissed me off. You owe me money. And this is one of those moments where I was like, wow, like a person like this actually exists. It's crazy.
Yeah, that does upset me. Okay? It would have been one thing if I'm staying late and people are laughing, having a good time, and a few people are at least supporting the stream, but no one did. And that really upsets me. I'm going to hope that tomorrow when I finish it, there will be some support.
Now you see how he took on the role of the parent. I mean, look at his speech patterns and how he's speaking to people. He's going to hope tomorrow that things will be different. That's like your mother going to work and telling you that your room better be clean before she get off work, or that's your ass. Some of you kids, some of y'all that grew up around the same time I grew up, you know what I'm talking about. It was game time, right? So what makes him believe that he can talk to other adults as if he is their parents, especially considering they're paying his bills? Like, it's crazy.
Because it is pissing me off that I just stayed extra late and I got nothing for it. You know, the game's not even good. You know, if this were me, I'm not even exaggerating. If this were me not streaming, playing this, I would have just turned the game right off and said, fuck this, I'm not playing this anymore. But the fact that I'm now 5 hours into it, obviously I want to finish it. You know, but I toughed it out for you guys tonight and I got nothing out of it.
Now, why is this important? Because this showcases how, even though DSP would like to claim things have changed, well, the more they change, the more they stay the same, Phil, because this is pretty much what you do today. You guys wanted this. You know, we didn't hit the goal. It sucks. It's the same old song and dance with you.
But a bag of fucking frustration. And that pisses me off, that they really ruined the game the way they did. I really do feel like they ruined it. If they just had different gunplay or no gunplay, it would have been a much better game. I don't know what they were thinking. Holy shit. It's like, you know, really, it's like you're walking around with a room full of guys with chainsaws and they give you a Nerf bat. Wow. Oh, by the way, you also weigh 4,000 pounds. Gravity is 10 times strong, and you're walking in goo. Oh, that's Scorn in a nutshell. Very excited. All right. All right. So that is it for tonight. I'm out of here. I don't even know if my videos from earlier ever processed. They did. Hallelujah, they did. Thank God. I don't have to fucking worry about that shit. They did show up eventually. Thank goodness, because I was very upset because people wanted to see Plague Tale, and the Plague Tale stuff was frozen. It did process. Thank God. All right. So that is it for tonight. I'm going to upload this gameplay tomorrow. Basically, what we're going to do tomorrow is the same thing we did today. We're going to do more Plague Tale, and we're going to do more Scorn to finish it. And if we just finish Scorn early tomorrow night, we'll just chill. We'll have like a Q&A session or whatever. Because Ellipsian's like, yeah, you probably got about 45 minutes to an hour left tops. So obviously it's not going to be 2-hour stream tomorrow night, but at least we can like relax afterward. But yeah, you know, when you guys actively, visibly see that I'm really annoyed that the game sucks, and I'm obviously toughing through it because you guys are here to watch and you're enjoying, you know, hopefully there will be reciprocation. There was no reciprocation tonight. I mean, all the tips that came in before even the extra time I played.
So even back then, and even till this day, Phil struggles with the idea of reciprocation. He doesn't know what it means. All Phil knows how to do is take from people. And this was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So tell me what changed about this scenario besides the damn background. Seriously, and the lights. What it changed? Phil, you're still the same person. Now, you might be more brash in terms of how you ask for things, but is that a good change or a bad change, Phil?
All right. So hopefully tomorrow we'll finish it. And, you know, because again, tomorrow's my last streaming day of the week. I'm trying to raise funds for my day off here. Okay. And by the way, from everything, you know, factoring in everything I made today, all right, and everything else, my bill that I have to pay and everything on Thursday, I don't even have enough right now to buy Gotham Knights on Friday. Just being honest, I don't. So I'm hoping that tomorrow's going to be a better day in regards to that so that I can actually afford all the stuff this week. All right?
Y'all see how easy the lies just roll off his tongue? Now, during this time period, he was in the throes. I mean, in the midst of his addiction, right? And he knows good and well where his money was going at this time, but he had no issue saying with a straight face that he was not going to be able to afford the tools he needs to do his job. And this is why people say they don't like you, because of the emotional manipulation. Because why would you go there unless you want people to feel like what's going on is going to stop if they don't do something right now in this very moment? You always create arbitrary pressure and heat to try to create a scenario where people would just throw money at you, but you're not thinking about what you're going to give them. And even back then, you weren't thinking about what you were going to give them. I can go through your whole catalog, and it's largely going to be the same from you, Phil. But you can sit here and talk about people not reciprocating you. It's absolutely insane. And people who grew up around people who are only children, you see these type of traits a lot. You see this a lot when the mother is overbearing, when she's a helicopter parent, when she's not allowing the child to experience things on their own. That's not saying you turn them loose. That's saying you allow them to take a couple steps in front of you, and then when they fall, you will be there to assist them to get up. But you can't stop them from falling. You have to allow them to fall. How else would they experience pain? How else would they experience the feeling of being humble? How else would they taste their own blood? These are the things that humble you. And in order for you to learn, you must first be humble. That's why they say for some people, they have to learn things, quote unquote, the hard way. And oftentimes when you look at that or those people in those scenarios, the number one thing that you could point to is their hubris. How people were trying to tell them that they should not be doing that, but they thought they knew better than everyone else. And that's one of Phil's prime traits. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Well, if that's the case, why is your legacy begging while playing video games, Phil? Seriously, it makes no sense. And this is why I felt like my channel was necessary to a certain degree. Not saying that other people are not doing their part, because they are. But Phil says a lot of stuff that should really be unpacked. Seriously, I don't think it's enough to allow him to speak, even though he does do a whole lot of damage to himself. But sometimes you have to parcel out the things he says and truly make sense of it, so you can break down what he's actually saying. Because Phil loves and dwells in smoke and mirrors and sleight of hand. So you got to hold his feet to the fire and ensure that, no, Phil, this is what you said. Don't you remember that? Because Phil doesn't have any shame. He's a lot like Ric Flair or Hill in wrestling. Like they lost last week, but they're going to act like they didn't. And you like, damn, I saw you lose. But he's sitting there with a straight face. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. That's Phil. And so that was one of the reasons why I felt like I should have made this channel, because I used to sit here and watch Detractor content, think to myself, damn, he really just said that? Oh, wow, he really just said that. And then when I would go across, I wouldn't really see people, pointing those things out. And I was thinking, if I'm seeing this, I know other people are probably seeing this too. So let me see what I can do about this whole Darksydephil situation. And I'm gonna be real, man. I know a lot of people want Phil to, quote unquote, go away or get what's coming to him. But a lot of times when you see what appears to be a tragedy, and this is not always the case, okay? But a lot of times when you see things that might appear to be a tragedy or something went wrong, a lot of times that's judgment. You don't always know what people have going on. You just don't, right? Now, for Phil, we get to see his judgment play out. For a lot of people, you don't. Somebody do something to your family against the law, or they violate you in some type of way. Generally speaking, they go to prison. You know they're suffering, but you don't get to see it. Well, for Phil, it's almost as if you had what they call them, the toddler cams or the baby cams or whatever, where you have a camera in your room or a monitor in your room, and you had a camera in the baby's bed or whatever, so you can see the child wherever you are in the house. It's almost like we have that system, like we have a camera view inside of Phil's cell, aka his house. So I always ask the question, what would you like to happen to Phil aside from what's already happening to him? The man is full of anxiety. He's more than likely depressed. He doesn't have any real friends. He doesn't have no coffers filled up, right? He's in a loveless, more than likely sexless relationship with his wife. He uses her as a prop for the detractors. That's probably the whole reason why he got another woman so fast, so he can continue the facade of being a quote unquote normal guy. He doesn't have anything noteworthy going on in his life. I mean, just listen to his daily raps, listen to his podcast. He tries to create meaning out of the meaningless because he doesn't have really anything going on. So my question again is, what would you like to happen? Because to me, this is best case scenario for somebody like him, because Phil has a huge ego, right? And every single day he has to come on stream and deal with his ego being wounded because he has to walk over the coals, to quote him, right? Because Phil doesn't have any options and he knows that. So instead of him coming out here saying, I'm so miserable, he's going to try to make the best of it, because what else can he do, man? I mean, you ever talk to somebody who was in the midst of a really bad drug addiction? Seriously, they'll tell you that, oh, they're good. I'm fine. I'm good. I don't need help with nothing. I'm straight. You just don't understand, right? So we know that these people are deluded, and Phil plays with his nose a lot. And I've touched on this before, but I will not be surprised at all if he doing a little, right? If you know what I mean. Allegedly, won't be surprised at all. You see a lot of puffiness and tightness in his face in the morning. And I know a lot of that is from his alcohol use, but a lot of times when people are struggling with addiction, they're often struggling with multiple addictions because those addictions become their friends. They care about that more than they care about anything else. So I just want to give y'all a little bit of something. Maybe I should have structured this a little bit better, but I just wanted to talk to y'all, man, just to, hash it out a little bit and give y'all a little bit of a backstory. I'm sure at some point I would do a more in-depth version of this, when I can pinpoint and actually try to remember stuff. No promises though, because I can't guarantee you I remember stuff. My memory is terrible these days. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into this, and God willing, I'm probably going to keep doing it for a little while. If I ever stop or decide I'm going to stop, I will not just disappear on y'all. I'll make a video, I'll make a post, I'll say something. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Peace.
Urban style content. I'm dead.